How's it going, everyone? Carpo here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, well, Freemasonry. Just go right off the bat, and occult, and what they may call the hidden sciences or hidden knowledge. And I'm just going to touch on this briefly because in the past I've gone into these things in detail. In fact, a couple of years ago I was really into Hermetic knowledge and Manly Hall and whatnot, and I made a lot of videos talking about this kind of thing. And the one thing that I realized is that it attracts a lot of negative attention from people who really do think that the Freemasons are out to rule the world. So I would like to take a moment and take a different approach. I'm not here to defend Freemasonry, nor am I here to say there's no such thing as a New World Order, or that no one's trying to control. So you can, before you attack me on those points, at least hear me out. This saying came to mind yesterday. I was down at Goodwill and I picked up a pair of pajamas and a new book. And the book that I picked up down there was this, The Lexicon of Freemasonry. And it's a pretty big book. And if you might call it, basically the encyclopedia of Freemasonry. It has all the different terms, the form of the lodge, flooring, fortitude, epopt, ephod, and it has a pretty well thought out, book of assisting, I guess you might just call it a dictionary for Freemasons. So in here, I guess there's no point in reading it. It doesn't make any sense to read the cover because the point isn't really what's in the book. I have that book and this, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Now here we have the Lexicon of Freemasonry that was written by a Freemason and then published based on his experience as a Freemason and the information he had gathered as a Freemason. Whereas here we have The Secret Teachings of All Ages, which was written by Manly Hall in 1927, long before he became a Freemason, which was in 1954. My grandfather was a 32nd degree Master Mason in his lodge, and somebody mentioned that the other day. They said, I saw it on a different video, or one of the reptilian videos or something somebody made about me, and somebody said, I found out that his dad or his grandfather was a Mason, and I thought, that's guilt by association, the fact that I even have anyone in my family that's a Mason. But I have his Masonic rings. They're both gold rings. I have his lambskin apron with the blue border with the all-seeing eye. And, I understand these symbols go a little bit deeper than people realize. And so what I wanted to at least propose here was not necessarily that Freemasons are great and dandy, but the old term you may have heard, know your enemy. Which I should have just said at the beginning, because I think that'll be the title of this video. But when I say that, I do not mean that Freemasonry is an enemy, or knowledge, or occult teachings, or anything like that. What I mean is, I should say, know your enemy, and you may find that they are your friend. I have studied Freemasonry because in 1998 I read a book talking about how they wanted to dominate the world, and talked about the New World Order, and how these secret societies just wanted to dominate and own everything. And my question was, why? Why do these old men in these groups want to dominate? Why do they want to have these things? And of course, people say power and money. But the older I got and the more research I did, the more I realized power and money only exist to a certain extent. I should say, power and money only drive a person so far. And many of the people who are involved in things like Freemasonry, they're not out for monetary gain. So here's a group who's claiming that they're there to help their brother. The more I read about their early teachings, the more I realized that rather than coming here to start America and dominate the world, many of the Freemasons who originally, were the founding fathers, which a lot of them were Freemasons, they wanted to come here to escape religious persecution, because being a Freemason was frowned upon, because it wasn't Christianity. So there are many different ways to look at it. I started realizing that the people who were pushing the hardest against Freemasonry were the churches. And that really made me think twice about whether or not Freemasonry was my enemy or not. And this was in '98 when I found out about Freemasons, so it's been about 20 years that I've been on this search, you know. And it's just on and off. It's not like every day I'm looking for Freemason information. Of course not. I read what was available at the time. And as the internet became more and more flooded with what you might call information, I started seeing bits and pieces of old books that I'd read and old stories from people like William Cooper, and things repeated and rehashed and reformatted into a new form to try to make it sound important and interesting, and how blogs can be posted about just about anything. And if you just Google Freemason New World Order, you'll come up with a dozen web pages of people who just swear that, you know, these guys just want to own your soul. So to walk away from this without, you know, without trying to go one direction or the other, I'm not promoting Freemasonry. In fact, I have contemplated it in the past and realized that, at least for me, being part of a fraternal organization is pretty petty, and in today's world it seems a little bit weak-minded that a person would even join the Freemasons, considering they still exclude women. And I understand this goes back, you know, they're trying to carry on these traditions of no women in the lodge, but to me it just shows, you know, it's just like the Christian church, you know, the Catholic Church not allowing women to be bishops or priests. I mean, to me that just shows a lack of understanding. But I shouldn't get into that, because I understand that the male and female are different, so maybe the ancients, you know, had their reasons, I guess, but that's not for me to decide. What does bother me is people having to pay their lodges to be in a group, to be a Freemason, you know, having to pay to be a member, and some of that money may go to good causes, but a lot of it may very well not. And as soon as money's being passed around, people have their hands out. So my personal opinion is I choose to avoid any group which gets too large. And you want to talk about Freemasons being crooked, I mean, look at some of these you know, charities and whatnot, you know. People just, it's not that the charities themselves are a bad cause, it's that people who are involved in the charities, who are on top, who are handling millions of dollars, it's easy to skim a little bit and think you deserve it. And I think that's what happens in many different groups and societies, because Freemasons as a group aren't out doing any damage to their community. They're helping one another, at least as far as they know. And I actually saw one the other day where it was a Freemason himself saying, hey, if you just want to go out and do charity, Freemasonry isn't for you. You'd be better off going to help with the Lions Club or something, or the Rotary Club, or one of these other organizations that do specific things. So I guess my point here is that Freemasonry is not the enemy, nor is any secret society, nor are any of these secrets. The secrets aren't the enemy. The things that are right out in the open are the enemy. Things like greed and corruption, and it's right in front of us. We don't have to look behind closed doors or anything to find that. But after reading all these books and learning all these things, I see what these men were after. They were after an understanding of their life. And hell, can I blame them? Of course not. Am I going to join them? No, of course not. But at least I have the respect to do the homework, because it amazes me how many people throw around accusations about what things mean that don't understand it. People who think that the all-seeing eye still just means Big Brother, you know, something that shallow and simple. I believed that when I was younger. You know, somebody said the pyramid on the dollar bill is Big Brother watching you. Look, Big Brother doesn't give a shit what you're doing. This is our idea that Big Brother really gives a shit about us and what we're doing as an individual. That's something that has come later, you know, with all this NSA stuff. But even then, I've got this kind of saying, hey, hey, Big Brother's watching, make sure your finger's up really high. Because they can't watch us all. There's way too much going on. I think we like to feel more important than we are. And we also like to give more importance to groups than they have, as well as putting a more menacing approach on it too. Even to the point of saying that, you know, these people are baby killers and Satanists, when, you from what I can see, a majority of it is not that way. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Freemasonry. I guess I probably already made this too long, and somebody's going to say, "Oh, dude, you're just an agent of something." I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I feel like this is kind of in defense of Freemasonry in a way, but understanding where they're coming from, it's the simple symbols like the square and the compass, and I guess when people talk about how they hide everything, it's not hidden. There's plenty of books. You just got to pick them up and read. The ultimate secrets discovered by the individual.